Hi, I'm Chris Maragkakis of Simply Be Retreats and Therapies. I'm a life coach, therapist and podcaster. Welcome to Mindful Mutterings. Please like, share and subscribe. And as always, thanks for listening. Hi, thanks for joining me. I want to talk about forgiveness this week because it's such an important part of letting go, and it's such an important way that we can rebalance our karmic payload, and we can help ourselves feel better, and we can improve our well-being. But more than that, it can help us to release so much of the stress and anxiety that we're holding on to, that we're not even aware that is causing us problems. So before I get started, let me just clarify that forgiving someone does not mean that you should forget their behaviour, and nor does it mean that there should be no consequence to their actions. Forgiveness means letting go of the need to have retribution, or being able to stop holding a grudge. Because when we're doing either of these, the wanting retribution or holding a grudge, we're allowing our subconscious to replay the events like a film over and over and over again. And this is causing us deep-rooted pain and constant suffering. And so through forgiveness, we can begin the process of letting go of the anger or the resentment or the pain or whatever it is that we've associated with this action. And every thought, word or deed, either from us or to us or about us, creates an energetic memory or vibration, if you prefer. And we store this energy in our body. And, you can pick up just about any article at the moment, and the physicists are all talking about the heart-mind connection and about how we hold energy in our body, and we're energetic beings, and we're connected to each other through this energy. And so it's really important that we pay attention to this, and we look at the energy that we're putting into our body. So when someone does or says something that we feel is unjust or unkind, we might feel betrayed or hurt, and we often want to have our say or to prove to them how unworthy they are. And it's ironically this that causes the most damage. So obviously positive words, thoughts and deeds create great energy that enables us to thrive, and negative energy does the opposite, brings us down, can cause short and long-term mental and physical issues. So the problem that becomes is that we create our own suffering, because the person only has to do the thing, whatever it was that they did that upset us once. But because we're playing it over and over again, maybe looking for justification for our pain or thinking of the things that we should have said, it ends up gaining more and more importance and power in our mind. And this is due to the ego mind. Because what happens is our ego always puts us at the centre of the action, because the ego is the part of the mind that identifies with I. It is our sense of identity, and therefore it's incredibly self-important, and it always looks to win in every situation. But the fact of the matter is that no one wins when we try to dominate each other, especially as when someone is being kind or behaving badly towards us. It often has absolutely nothing to do with us. We've just been a catalyst to their trigger. Now, a trigger is an unconscious belief that causes us to react in a certain way, and we react in that way because we've been conditioned to believe that a certain behaviour is a challenge to our ego or our identity or our sense of well-being, and we've repeated this chain of events so often that we don't even have to think about it. It's become so ingrained in our subconscious that we're not aware that we do it, or if we are aware that we do it, we don't know why. We don't know why we behave in that way. But obviously, if we continue behaving in this way, and it's a pattern that we're not in control of, we're also having to deal with the same set of consequences again and again and again. And so it's about being aware of this so that we can do something about it. Because when something causes us pain and we're triggered, we often lash out, and then we have to cope with the aftermath in the same way that we always have since the trigger was created. And this is why, it's often very easy for other people to see other people's triggers, because you can think, well, they keep doing that over and over again. When are they going to learn? But it's really hard to see it when you're doing it yourself. So this is obviously not a healthy behaviour. This is not the ideal way of managing our problems, because it causes so much additional pain and suffering, and this then contributes to physical and mental illness, especially anxiety and depression, and it can also trigger some other mental illnesses, which then just becomes a knock-on. It's like a snowball, and it just gets bigger and stronger and more unpleasant. So when we choose to respond, then it's a conscious action. and it's more proactive and positive. So to be able to respond, we need to monitor our thoughts and actions through mindfulness, I guess, and so that we can identify our pain points, and then we can challenge and change our reactions to them. And that's how we move from being triggered to being in a position where we can respond. And obviously responding, because it is a conscious action that we've chosen, hopefully that will produce the best outcome and come from a position of compassion and kindness, because it's a considered approach. We haven't been, triggered into making it happen. We haven't lashed out. We've actually taken our time to think through what is the best action for everybody, and that will create the least amount of pain and suffering. Because when we're holding on to all this hurt, we fill up with this negative and stagnant energy, and that just brings us down. And then there's all this underlying stress that it causes, whirring in the background of our mind, which then contributes to illness and our dissatisfaction. And then maybe we start to feel hopeless or victimised, and that, people or society is out to get us, which then creates a fear-based mentality and a perpetual cycle of pain and emotional suffering. Now, whatever we feel in the heart, the mind creates, and this goes back to that heart-mind connection that I was talking about earlier. Negative emotions are the signpost to the things that need to be addressed. And because it's pain and it's uncomfortable, we will often do everything that we can to suppress or numb the pain, and often we'll employ negative coping strategies like alcohol, food, media, whatever it is. And the more negative emotions we're trying to suppress, the more energy we're actually feeding them. And so they just continue to grow, causing us even more pain and suffering. And because we're feeling all this pain and suffering, and yet we're trying to ignore it, and you must have heard the expression, what you resist persists, it just becomes more and more important, or it has more and more impact over our lives. And then because we're feeling it in our heart, we're actually creating it in the world in front of us, because we come from that place when we interact with everybody. And so every situation that we live through comes from this fear-based mentality that someone is going to hurt us, or that the world is out to get us. So it's just become such an awful, vicious cycle. So many belief systems throughout history have understood how our mind and heart are connected, and have systems in place to help people move through their emotions to a place of peace. And the process begins with acceptance. So acceptance of the situation that needs to be addressed, and our responsibility in what happened. Now, although in our eyes we may not have done anything wrong or deserve this, we have to take responsibility for our actions that triggered the other person, and for the pain that's caused them. So we're not responsible for their mindset, their emotional state, or their pain. That is their responsibility to address. But as a human in the collective consciousness, what hurts one of us will ultimately affect all of us, because that's how they're going to work through the world. And obviously, how they behave in life is going to come back and affect us. And we all have caused another sentient being suffering at some point in time. And so we need to address that. So the process then moves to asking for forgiveness from them for our part in triggering their pain, and from ourselves for anything that we may have done in this or any other situation in any of our past lives that has consciously or unconsciously caused pain to ourselves and others. Because guilt serves no purpose other than as a signpost for something that needs to be addressed. Now, we cannot change the past. We can only apologise for any harm and learn from our actions once we've done that. And then we need to find a way to let it go, so that we can create space to welcome in positivity. And love for our fellow beings, universal love, is the most powerful energy. So we're not talking about romantic love. We're just talking about a general love for humanity and the world around us. And when we live from this open and compassionate heart state, we open up our lives to abundance and joy, health and opportunity. So from this place, we can then see how fortunate we are to have these learning experiences that have brought us to this situation in our lives, and given us so many riches in the form of family, friends, physical possessions and opportunities, that we can then begin to practice gratitude. So all of these steps, when put together, relieve us of our karmic burdens, reduce our stress, our anxiety, our depression, our self-loathing and our feelings of overwhelm. They also help us to remove our guilt. And this then helps us to move from a point of pain to a position of openness and peace. Now, the Hawaiians have a practice called Ho'oponopono, which means correction or forgiveness. And this is embodied in the following prayer, which you should repeat 7 or 8 times daily, preferably with your eyes closed and with genuine intent, either for yourself, another person, your community, or the world. And the reason it's so powerful is because it works on a subconscious level, and because what it does is it allows the actions to move from the subconscious to the conscious, where we can then reconcile our emotions, we can repent, we can forgive, and we can be grateful for the sentience that allows us to enjoy this beautiful life. So I'll share this with you. So it doesn't really matter which order, or from what I understand, it doesn't matter which order you say the 4 lines in, as long as they are with genuine feeling and with an open heart and a wish to be better. So it goes like this: I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And with all of those, we're apologising, we're repenting, we're using universal love, and we're using gratitude. And the use of these 4 lines in a prayer helps us to begin, like I say, it brings everything into the present, not in an overwhelming way. It's actually a really, really gentle way to do it. And if you repeat it daily, and obviously the more you repeat it, the more beneficial it is, then you actually feel yourself being lifted and lighter, and you can feel your heart opening. And so then because they're bringing the emotions into the present moment, it's not traumatic. It's just a gentle way of being allowed to let go and forgive yourself. And that in itself is a beautiful gift. So I hope you found this really interesting. As always, if you want to get in touch, if you've got any questions or you'd like to work with me, then you can contact me via my website, simplybe.org.uk. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you'll join me for the next one. Take care. Bye.